If you're building an online business and you don't want to waste years doing it the hard way, this video is for you. I just spent the day in LA with 20 entrepreneurs from our Rise program, people at all different stages, and I walked them through exactly how to go from zero to $1 million using social media to sell what they already know through a course, membership, or coaching program. But here's the part that really changed the game for them. We didn't just talk strategy. We figured out their archetype, meaning the kind of entrepreneur they are, so they could build a business that actually fits the income and lifestyle that they want. Because let's be honest, a business that makes you money but burns you out isn't the goal. The feedback I got was honestly kind of wild. People said it was the clearest, most tactical breakdown they'd ever gotten, and that no one had ever explained business to them like this before, which is exactly why I wanted to share it with you. So if you've been trying to figure out your next step, or you're tired of hearing the same generic advice, I hope this gives you a new level of clarity. And most importantly, I hope it helps you build a business that's not just successful, but a life you actually love. Enjoy. And we're going to kind of cover a couple different things. So first thing, we're going to design your life, because business gets to be whatever you want it to be. And it really depends on what type of archetype of person you are. You guys might know people that have businesses that are like, you know what, I just want to have a lifestyle business. I'm optimizing for free time. I just want to have as many hours in the day to spend with my family. I don't need to have $1 trillion company. I just want free time. On the other side, you might be really indexing big. And to do that, you might be like, I'm totally fine to put every single ounce of energy I have into this thing. So we have to decide what's right for you, not for your friends, not for your parents, not for anyone else in the room, but literally checking in with yourself and going, what is my archetype? And how are we going to design a life around that? Then I'm going to walk through the 5 stages of business, because, you might be in the beginning stages right now. And for me, when I was in those stages, I didn't know what the rest looked like. I was kind of just like moving closer and closer to it, going, what the hell am I going? Where am I going? And I would have loved for someone to just map it out like this for me. So hopefully in mapping it out, it's going to get you guys a little bit clearer on the journey ahead. And that way you can navigate it however it best suits you. And then we're going to talk about your next steps, because I want this to be not just something lofty that you're learning about, but how do we actually action this? Like when we go home from here, what are we working on next to get us closer to where we want to be? So first thing we're going to talk about is designing your life. So you might have heard me say this on Zoom, but I kind of see business like a big buffet, right? We can create an endless amount of dishes. Some people like fruit salad, some people like the pastries, and there's all kind of different ingredients to select from. There's absolutely no right or wrong way to do this, but the goal is to create a dish that you actually want to eat. Your goal is to create a business that you actually want to live in. And there are 2 main areas when you consider kind of the dish that we're creating in business. First is profit. Second is lifestyle. Now, you notice I said profit, not revenue. 2 very, very different things. You'll see people flaunting revenue all over the place. And then, I remember one of my mentors early on, he was making $30 million a year in a mastermind. And I was like, I didn't really understand the difference at the time of how dramatic of a difference margin can make. So he actually had $29 million of expenses every year. So he made $1 million profit. So at the time that I was listening to him, I was making more profit than him. So don't ever listen to revenue. Think about profit. That is kind of number 1. So the first area is how much profit, which is actually what hits you, your bank account, do I want to make? Second is lifestyle. Like, what do you want your calendar to look like? If you're going to start running a software company, your calendar is going to be a lot more full than this. So I don't recommend it if you're optimizing for free time. But if I wanted my calendar to look a lot emptier, then I could have designed it just to be around that as well. So first thing to think about is, what does that look like for you? Profit and lifestyle. And to do this, we're going to kind of pick your archetype. Now, again, there's no right or wrong archetype. And I think especially in America, I'm Australian, where the unfortunate thing about Australia is that people don't have a whole lot of ambition. In America, people have so much ambition that it can kind of make people feel like they're never aiming big enough and there's always more to be had. And like, we got to keep pushing and hustling. And that is not true, right? It's about finding what's enough for you. What is enough in your life? So we're going to find the identity now that makes you feel fulfilled. And the biggest source of frustration that I see is people who want the results of one type of identity, maybe someone who wants to go big and fast, they're optimizing for growth over lifestyle, like they want the big numbers, but they're operating like this person, where they're actually just designing their days for free time. That is where you get that confusion, right? Where you're like, I got this big goal, but actually I'm operating like someone who's getting out of bed at 10 a.m. and, clocking off at 1 p.m., right? And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but you've got to match your actions naturally to the results that you want to get. So I want you to really identify your archetype, and I'm going to go through them. Claim it without judgment, right? Because there are going to be people in this room that have maybe different archetypes to you, bigger or smaller, and I don't want you to judge it. But we are going to make decisions in line with it and align yourself with those who have similar archetypes. So I'll give you an example. If you're in a business with someone that wants to go big and fast, they're optimizing for growth over lifestyle, they're operating with extreme urgency, but maybe you're like, well, I want a business, but I just want enough free time and enough profit to like hit my 20K a month goal. You're going to have a lot of conflict with that person, right? So it doesn't mean you can't be friends with them. I have many friends. I'm operating like person C right now, but I have many friends that are person A. But it helps when you identify where you're at so that you can align yourself with similar types of people. Your archetype is going to change in different seasons of life, and this is totally okay. It's just good to check in. Like I do it kind of yearly. There was one point in my life where I had just an education business, online education, and I was optimizing completely like person A. I was riding horses. I had 7 horses, a horse farm in Florida. I loved it. That was like where I spent majority of my time. I worked 2 hours a day. My calendar was very, very empty. Now I'm in a season where I'm like, I want to go big. I want to build a software company. There's no way that I'm going to get to my number now just doing those actions when person A was. So it's okay. It's going to change in different seasons. But the first thing I want you to do is kind of take a look at these archetypes, right? So person A, they just want to make enough to get by, right? They're optimizing. And when I say optimizing, this is how you make decisions. So if I said to a business partner, say, and I was like, hey, you want to grind all night? Like you want to get this done? And they're like, no, actually, I want to go home and be with my kids, right? It's how you make decisions. So person A would make the decision to go home and be with their kids. Person C would be like, heck yeah, let's go, right? Person B is somewhere in the middle, right? They want to end up in the 6 to 7 figure range per year. They optimize long-term for a lifestyle business. What do I mean by this? So have you guys heard the difference between lifestyle businesses and equity businesses? No. Okay, so step back and explain. Lifestyle businesses, I feel really lucky that I ended up in that direction first. Because what happens a lot of times is people will go down all different types of businesses because they're like, I want money, thinking that it means lifestyle. And what we often find is it absolutely does not, right? So a lifestyle business is an online education business. And the reason is because we don't have to be in a physical location. We can make a lot of profit with it, and we get to design our life kind of the way that we want. So a lifestyle business is something that produces a lot of cash flow for the owner, and you have a lot of freedom in where you run it, how you run it. So that would be like your whole business exists to serve your lifestyle. And you're happy to move through the stages that I'm going to share with you to get there, right? So you're not like, I'm straight up chilling, but you're also not like, I want to build $1 trillion tech company. You're kind of in the middle, right? Where you're like, I want to live really, really well, and I'm happy to do the work, but also I don't want to become like completely imbalanced on the way there. There is absolutely no right or wrong to any of these, but it is about knowing which one you're at this stage of your life so that we can make decisions that are in line with that, so that we can ultimately pick the ingredients to put on your plate to get you there, right? So take a second and write down which one of these, and maybe you're in between as well. It's a scale, but kind of pick where you're at on this scale. So first thing is profit, right? This is your monthly income goal. Because if we're doing things correctly, we have our business finances that are separate, and then the profit for the month is what the business owner can actually take and put in their own bank account. Remember what I said, revenue is what the business makes in sales total. Your income, on the other hand, is what's left after all of the expenses. And that's why it's so tempting to take I'm just going to do it all myself route, right? Because we're like, well, I don't need to hire anyone. I'm going to put all of that revenue into my pocket. But you think it means more money in your pocket, and in the beginning it does, but when your expenses are low and you're just getting things off the ground, that is true. Long term, it becomes the very thing that limits your growth, your freedom, and ironically, your profit. If you just stay stuck in that mentality, I'm going to do it all myself. So a big focus of this session is not just picking the business model and the goal for you, but building the business beyond yourself. Because that is what's going to give you any degree of freedom, is when it's not just you, all the responsibilities falling on you. And where a lot of people go wrong in business is they start business and it feels hard because they're wearing all the hats right in the beginning. We have like the biggest hurdle to get over right at the start. And then they quit and they go, business was too hard. I'm going to go back to my job. But it's just because they didn't know what I'm going to share with you today, which is how to work through those stages, how to hire people, how to systemize, and how to ultimately have your calendar looking more free if that's what you're optimizing for. So write down a profit goal. This is not revenue. This is how much you, as the business owner, want to take home every single month. And it can be anything.
For the business, but
For you, yeah.
the CEO.
Correct. Yeah. So because that's why we're doing business, right? For a part of it is like, what do you personally take home? I know a lot of very successful businesses that the owners take nothing. In fact, they're funding the business. Their business is making a lot of revenue. They don't take anything from it. So you want to make sure that when you write down your profit goal, it's what you want coming to you in your bank account every single month.
Is this just enough at the beginning?
So this is what you're optimizing for in this stage right now. So you're probably going to have, it's going to keep changing over time. But I would say, like, what's your immediate goal? What do you want to take home in profit? Like, if I landed here in the next year, this would feel really, really good to me, because I don't like planning 5-10 years out. So much changes in that time. So let's keep it focused on like the next year. And then the good news is the business model that you have chosen, which is, selling something digital online, is one of the best when it comes to both lifestyle and cash flow. So this word, AOV, is average order value. It just means like what someone pays you, right? Is really high because you're pricing based on a valuable transformation. For instance, bottle of water, right? If that was my business, Air One bottles of water are a little bit more expensive, but still they're $3 each. Right? So the order value of an Air One bottle of water is quite low. But because we're selling really valuable transformations to people, right? You guys know from the curriculum that we want to optimize for solving the biggest, most painful problem for someone so that we can garner a higher price. So your average order value was already so much higher than people that are, selling cups or paper or, anything in e-commerce because of what we're actually selling. You also have very, very, very low expenses. Meaning, if you run things correctly, this business model is high profit just by nature, right? Because there's not that many things. If I'm selling Air One water, I need distributors, I need glass bottles. There's so much that goes into it. I need to run ads. I need to buy shelf space Air One owns that one, but I need to buy shelf space in a store. So there's a lot of expenses. With your membership, with your online offer, there's really not that many, right? We're just selling a transformation that is really valuable to someone. We might have a little bit of software, a little bit of overhead, but it's so minimal compared to a traditional business. But the best thing, and why I love this business model so much, it is so simple to run. Think about managing warehouses. Think about like managing Amazon or an airline, like the logistics that go into these things. Or even, let's take a step back, even if you want to maybe sell a planner. I've done things like that. I've sold merch, I've sold hoodies and things, and I'm like, wow. Whenever I do it, I am so appreciative for digital services. I don't have shelf space. I don't have to go back and forth with suppliers. I don't have shipping delays. I don't have post office things going on, right? It is so simple, meaning you can generate a significant amount of cash flow and build an incredible lifestyle for yourself at the same time. So the good news is no matter what numbers you wrote down, no matter what type of person you are, A to C, it's all possible in this business model. But if we were maybe sitting in a room of e-com owners, I wouldn't be so sure, right? E-commerce businesses. Or if we were maybe sitting in a room full of software owners, I definitely would not be sure. That is a must be person C, must put in a whole lot of money up front and be willing to play the long game with it. But a lot of the time, that's the friction that I see with people is we're not choosing the right business model to actually get us to our goals. So we feel kind of frustrated because we're trying really hard, but we're going down all these different avenues to get there and we keep hitting these dead ends and we're like, I guess business isn't for me. No, you just didn't know how to select the right one for you at the time. So I wanted to just give a little breakdown. I didn't know all this stuff in the beginning, but now having delved into different industries, I'm like, wow, I really hit the nail on the head the first time round with this. So if we think about, digital products, which are courses, memberships, anything online where we're selling a valuable transformation, the average margin, which is meaning what you take home after expenses, it's like 70 to 95%, depending on how you run the company. And we're going to talk about the different ways to run it. Expenses are super low. It's super scalable, right? You guys know you can just keep inviting members in. There's not a point at which you're like, oh my God, I got to do more one-on-one calls or anything like that. So you can just keep bringing people in. And the complexity is really low. It's quite simple once you know how. And I know you might be thinking, well, it feels really hard right now. But it's just like walking, right? Walking felt really hard when we first started. We fell over a bunch of times, but now it's like autonomous. And having kind of delved into other businesses now, let me tell you, like it's going to feel easy at a certain point. Once you have your map kind of fully formed, it's like if I asked you right now to go and drive to LA airport. I don't even know how to get there, and I've been living in LA, right? I wouldn't have the map that I needed to know how to get where I want to go. But once I've been living in a city for a while, I just start driving there. You guys are still figuring out the map. So that's why it feels a little bit harder, right? We're taking some wrong turns, we're learning, we have to actively think to do it. But once you kind of know your way around, it becomes a lot simpler and it feels a lot easier. E-com, the average gross margin, you're making about 20 to 40%. So when you see people selling maybe a $100 jacket, they're actually taking home $20 to $40 on each product. Expenses are really, really high. You've got shipping. Nowadays in the world going on, you got things like tariff, which I've seen, that can add on 25% with a government decision overnight. I've seen people that have just started e-com businesses, super excited, friends of mine, and they're like, holy crap, our whole business model overnight is now in jeopardy because they had a 20% margin. Tariffs are now 25%. Now they're running their business for negative profit.
Or TikTok shop.
Exactly. Medium scalability, and I will say, this can go quite high. E-com brands can go pretty big, but at the same time, you've got to add on more shipping centers, more distribution centers. So it comes with, a level of complexity to actually scale that as well. Then we've got brick and mortar, again, pretty low, 10 to 30%. Expenses super high. You've got rent, you've got employees, you've got insurance, so many different things to think about. Obviously, it's not very scalable. You're stuck in one location unless you have an online component. And it's pretty high complexity to figure out, all the things that go into making a successful brick and mortar store. Then you've got service-based, which is like coaching and consulting. Now, this is a little bit separate because this is a scalable thing, right? Our memberships we can invite more people into. This is based on our time. So every now and then, I'll do some consulting. And to be honest with you, I don't love it because it eats into my time and it's not scalable. So while you can make, a good profit on that, 70 to 90%, the expenses are still quite low. It's not very scalable. The more successful you are, the more sales calls you have, and then the more your calendar fills up with consults. So it's not scalable. And on the bright side, the complexity is quite low. And this is why you see a lot of people starting with coaching, one-to-one coaching, and then they're like, oh gosh, I want my time back. And then they move into something that's a little bit more scalable because they're both quite simple businesses to run, both high profit, but this one eats into your time a whole lot more. There's agency models, 30 to 50%, medium expenses, scalability is not very high, pretty high complexity. Agencies, you're managing a lot of people. And then software, while you do have, a high margin on it, your expenses, we've spent millions of dollars, very, very high up front. Scalability is super high, but the complexity as well, the learning curve on that has been absolutely massive, and I would never recommend it to 21-year-old version of me. So it kind of, when you take a look at it like that, right? If we don't know these things, we can be like, oh, the grass is greener. Maybe I want to do e-com. Maybe I want to sell planners. Maybe I want to do these other things. But I want you to see this so that if you're tempted, if you have those thoughts, you're like, but wait, I'm in the best business model right now. You guys have hit the nail on the head like I did early on. It's not about changing business models at this stage. It's about learning skills to build a business beyond you to get that time freedom and that profit that you're looking for. So let's talk about lifestyle. You own your business, which means that you get to create a lifestyle that you want to live. It's literally 100% up to you. Even in digital product businesses, people create very different lifestyles for themselves depending on their goals. Some want to push the limits and go big. Others want to optimize for free time, right? And that's up to you. I have a friend, Elise Parker. Some of you may know her on YouTube. She is the calmest human that I have ever met in my life. I just spent some time with her. Even being around her, I'm like, wow, you're so chill. She's like, I worked for 30 minutes today. I'm so tired. And she's the most adorable human you'll ever meet. And she, that's her life. And she loves it. She's optimizing for free time. And we kind of have this joke because we're polar opposites at the moment. And she's like, I know that's not a lot compared to what you're doing right now, but it's okay. We both accept that she's happy in her stage. I'm really fulfilled in my stage. And it's about finding what works for you right now and being really honest about that. The key in achieving your goals lies in your ability to learn the 5 stages that I'm going to share with you in this session. And I want to also say, even though business might feel challenging right now, right? That is normal because we're in this stage. We're pushing the rock up the hill for most of you. Some of you might have kind of hit the top and it might be starting to feel easy, but you're going to see all these people on social media. They're like, business is so easy, right? And they're skipping around. I just made $100,000 today. And it's only because, it's not because they're doing anything different. It's just because they've pushed the rock up to the hill, they've built systems, and now they're on the other side. That's why it's easy. It's not that they have a different type of business. It's not that they're a different type of human. It's just because they were consistent enough to stick with it, to keep pushing the rock to get to the stage where it's easy. And as a little example, building even, where I know the map of business now, I feel pretty competent in most areas with it. I still knew building Rise. I'm yep, we got to push the rock up the hill for a little bit. But I did that knowing that if I build systems, which now is the stage that we're at, now I can be away for a day, I can be offline for a full day. Like, that's totally fine. So even when you become a little bit more kind of accustomed to business, there's always this stage when you build anything new. That's just kind of the process. And that stage is what 99.9% of people don't have the guts to actually stick with. You guys are different. And I want to give you the encouragement that if you're thinking of tapping out in this stage, just know that the light at the end of the tunnel is coming from what I'm going to share with you in these sessions, because it doesn't always feel like this. This is just like the first 3 months, the first 6 months, the first year. The time period is a little bit different depending on each type of person. But you just got to keep focused on the goal. And that's what we're going to get really clear on in this session. The 5 stages of business. The first stage, and I would love for you to kind of identify with which stage you're at right now. First one is starting, which is the first 90 days in Rise, right? You're doing everything yourself while you're learning how to do it. You're testing, you're posting, you're selling, you're delivering, like you're doing everything, but you're also learning how and also dealing with a whole bunch of mindset stuff at the time, right? Next stage is scrambler, making sales, but execution is inconsistent, right? So I'll see this in some people. They're like, yeah, I've got the system set up, but I'm kind of like, I'm making some sales, but I don't really do, a lot of, I'm not posting consistently. I'm not doing DMs consistently. And you have no real rhythm or systems. You're just kind of like showing up when you have time here and there. I wasn't looking at you specifically, Sophie, but you smiled. And then the next one is systemizers. This is where you're headed, which is when you're starting to document. You're building your first processes so you can hire. And if you're like, how do I do that? Don't worry, we're going to get into it all. Then from there, you become a leader. This is when you're running a small, lean team. And the good news is in this business model, you don't have to have thousands or hundreds of employees. You can. You will see some people like Tony Robbins, right? He's got an information business, an online information business and events, but he's got a massive team. He's really going big with it. But again, that's why it's so helpful to know your archetype. Do you just want free time and 20 grand a month profit? Or do you want 100 grand a month profit? Like, you get to design this, and I'm going to show you how. You're managing people at this stage, and you're optimizing operations. So you're not doing all the things, but you're managing the people doing all the things. And then when you become a CEO, is when you're out of the weeds. You're leading with vision, metrics, and scale in mind. And you don't even necessarily need to get to this stage to run, a $50,000 to $100,000 lifestyle business. This is something that if you really want to go big, like you're hiring, getting people on your team because you're leading with such incredible vision and they want to join you, and it's a different stage. For most people, I think you're probably going to end up at this stage, and you can easily get to 100K profit just getting to level 4. So I'd love for you to kind of take a look at these and maybe write down where you feel that you're at right now. And I'm going to kind of break down each stage, and we're going to go through all the different departments in the business. We're going to talk about what the constraint is. So like, what's kind of the challenge that you're dealing with and how to graduate this level to move on to the next one. We following so far? Yeah? Not going too fast? All right. So we have all the different kind of departments, quote unquote. We got content, which is basically marketing. So at this stage, like, marketing is just content. That's the purpose of content, is to let people know we exist, which is what marketing is. The constraint at this stage is we're not posting consistently or clearly. We're kind of showing up like, what do I post? I don't know. We're still dealing with feelings of self-doubt. So then we're not consistent and we don't know who we're speaking to just yet. To graduate this level, you need to just get visible. That's it. You just start posting with a clear, value-driven message and consistent schedule. The good news is how to do this is in the curriculum. It's in the magnetic messaging worksheet. You just need to commit to taking the messy action, doing it imperfectly so that you can ultimately be more consistent so that you can get seen. No one can buy your stuff if they don't know that you exist. So you have to allow yourself to not be a perfectionist and to just put things out there knowing that that is how you become perfect, is we have to iterate. We have to kind of give ourselves permission to suck in the beginning so that we can ultimately become really good at it. So that's it. To graduate this level, just gotta start posting. That's all. Now, sales. This is, our DM system, what we call a connection funnel. At this stage, you don't know how to pitch or convert. You feel really awkward doing it. You have no idea what to say. It feels unnatural to you. And we're still figuring out what scripts are actually going to convert someone, right? So we're still kind of testing these things. Now, to graduate, we're going to do all of this in the 90 days in Rise, which is just learning how to articulate your offer. So this is your VSL and your DM scripts, and invite people to work with you. That's it. We just need to systemize that process and know what words actually get someone to watch our VSL, and then what words actually get someone to convert into our offer. Product, you have no clear offer or transformation. And this might be the stage that you're at where you're like, I'm still kind of figuring out what is the clear value for someone in actually joining. I have a lot of things that I want to share about, but I don't necessarily know like the clear value-driven outcome for someone. And to graduate, most of you have already done this, or you're on your way to doing this, which is you just got to build and pre-sale a simple version 1, an MVP, so minimum viable product that just solves a problem. And it can just be one simple problem that you're solving for someone. It doesn't have to be perfect. But again, we do all of this in Rise, so I don't want to kind of harp on too much about the hows of doing this. But to get past level 1, all we got to do is build and pre-sell, which you guys have the strategy for. Finance, this is where like your personal bank account is also your business bank account. You're not tracking anything. You're like, oh God, I'm terrified of taxes. I don't know what to do, right? Which is why we give you guys a free consult with Prime inside of Rise. Everything's kind of blurry. All you need to do to graduate this, just set up a business entity and separate your business and personal finances. That's step 1. Just make sure you got a business bank account. Make sure you got a personal bank account. Customer service, you've got no formal support. You're just answering DMs and emails, right? People are going to DM you. You got some emails coming in if you have a support inbox, and you're just handling them. You are customer service. And, Danielle and I both have a whole bunch of stories of, little things that we did in the beginning of our business where like the support agent was actually us at night at like 1 a.m., right? So everyone starts this way, just doing support yourself. To graduate this, we're going to create just one simple support process, right? And that's probably going to be, in the business model you guys have, just creating a support email address so that if anyone comes into your DMs asking for support, you can just direct them to one simple place. So really simple things to graduate this level. And then operations. At this stage, you don't really have them. Everything is just reactive. You're like running around, you get breakfast, and you're like, oh my God, I got to do my DMs for the day. Oh my God, now I got this DM. How do I, right? You're just reacting to the environment around you. To graduate, we just want to document your weekly tasks and add them to your calendar. So instead of being reactive to everything, now we have a block that from 9 to 10 a.m., maybe that's when you do your DMs, or maybe it's late at night, like whatever works for you. Now that you have a support email address, maybe you're handling that, you do it 30 minutes once a week because you're just getting started. And you just have an order responder set on that says, hey guys, I get back to everyone at this day and this time, right? So we want to start kind of breaking away from that reactive mindset just a little bit, just by organizing your calendar. If you start to organize your calendar, you're going to organize your entire life. So does this make sense for level 1? Do we identify with this level? Yeah, that's okay. We're gonna keep graduating. Now, obviously that's the tangible, right? And I like to kind of show this because this is how I think about any business. There's just departments in any business. Even in your business right now, there's departments. It's just that you're the head of every department and you're the one doing every department, right? But once you start to break it out like this gives you the mental clarity to start going, now I can have a customer support person because I've got a support email, and I'm going to start creating processes so that they know how to answer the questions. So eventually, you're not the owner of all these departments. We can start crossing them out and other people become the owners of these. But the important thing is not just what we do, but how we change how we think, right? Because that is the biggest hurdle. To Nick's point earlier, we can know all the things to do, but be stuck in our own minds. And so we really need to be consciously aware that as we're doing these things, we're literally becoming a different person. And so I wanted to kind of share some of the common blocks that come up at each stage and how we're going to get past them to get to the other side and what we reframe it to. So at this stage, you're used to getting paid for your time, right? So it might feel really uncomfortable to be putting in a lot of work that you're not technically getting paid for right then and there. We're not invoicing someone for our time. And this might sound obvious, but physically there's like a reaction. Like I know certain people who have started businesses and they're kind of like mad. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, I'm not getting paid for this. And I'm like, well, you're not getting paid right now, but you're actually getting paid in future value. But that shift is one that takes a little bit to really identify. So we have to move to getting paid for the value you deliver, don't mind my typo, multiplied by the amount of people you deliver it to. So entrepreneurs get paid for the value they create for others and the amount of people that they actually deliver that to. The second is questioning if you even can provide value. Because I'm sure as I said that, there was some of you that were like, oh shit, I'm not going to get paid because I'm not valuable and I'm not good enough, right? So this is how everyone starts. Whether you look up to Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whoever it might be, right? They all started questioning if they can provide value. Unless you're an absolute sociopath, most people start questioning themselves. And we just have to start going, it's okay that I'm questioning this. This is normal. I know that I can do anything if I'm committed to learning how. That's how I should, like I talk about software being a more challenging business model. I had no idea how to do any of it in the beginning, but I believed in my ability that I could learn anything. So I wasn't confident in what I knew because I didn't know anything. But what I was confident in is my ability to learn. And so instead of questioning if you can provide value, maybe you can start reframing that to going, I can learn how to do anything, and then reaffirm that with all of the different things that you've learned. If you're a mom, you learned how to do that. No one taught you how, right? If you started working out in the gym, no one really teaches us how to do that. We had to learn how. So look at those times in your life where you've had to learn something you didn't know how to do. You absolutely can do it. So stop convincing yourself that you can't. Taking early results personally, this one's really, really big. We start doing DMs, someone messages us, you suck, Amy, whatever the thing might be. Or even it's not even as intense as that. It could just be, I'm good, thanks. I don't want it right now. And if we're not used to this, the first time that happens, because we're used to selling our time for money, we're like, I'm a terrible person, I'm never going to make it in business. And we go in this massive spiral, right? And we have to understand that that is normal. Like everyone in this room faces it. Every single entrepreneur faces it. But we have to shift into seeing results as valuable data separate from your self-worth. I can have an offer that doesn't go well that might completely flop. That doesn't mean I don't go well and I completely flop. So I see my content as separate to me. I see my offers as separate to me. I see my business as separate to me. And I want to invite you to do the same. You are not your offer. You are not your content. And any feedback that you get about those things, that's great. Now it's valuable data that we can use to improve it. Doesn't mean anything about us. And then just a lack of persistence and resilience. And this really comes from just not being, our nervous system's not wired yet for this. So think about if I started to go to the gym and I hadn't worked out in a long time, which is me right now because I'm mid-move at the moment. And we actually went for a run the other morning and I was like, damn, I'm a lot more tired than I normally am. It's just because my nervous system hadn't done it in a long time. Or, if you're just starting something, it's not done it at all. So it makes sense then that we're going to get tired a whole lot quicker than someone who's been doing this, right? So giving yourself that awareness and that grace that, hey, I'm not going to be, full of energy on my first, week, months doing this because I'm still kind of conditioning my nervous system to be in this place where I can execute efficiently. But we want to move to a place where we're showing up consistently for long enough to allow the tangible results to show up. There is no real big secret to life. Like, I feel like so many people are looking for like this elaborate code to success in life. And literally it all comes down to just do the work for long enough and keep believing in yourself long enough to actually get the results. But that is the part that people find so challenging, right? So we have to move into a place where we show up consistently for long enough to allow the results to show up. If we have these numbers on our checks, we can't expect that we're going to do one day of work and it's going to just flow to us. That would be lovely, but we have to allow there to be enough time for them to actually show up in our lives. Who identifies with any of these? Yeah? Okay, good. Next one is scrambler. So we're making some sales, but our execution is inconsistent. We have no real rhythm or system. So once we've maybe graduated Rise and we're like, okay, cool, I got some sales coming in, but I'm still just reacting to everything. We got to move in the content system. We've got inconsistent visibility and unclear messaging. So maybe you're posting, still inconsistent. Like not much has changed from the first stage. Now messaging, maybe we're posting, but we're not truly clear just yet who we're speaking to with absolute clarity. To graduate this, we just want to create a consistent content rhythm and refine your messaging based on what resonates. What does that mean? It just means post, you get feedback. Oh, that resonated with someone? Great. I'm going to keep doing more of those things. Great. Now I know my customer a little bit better. Great. Now I know their problems a little bit better. So we're kind of building a relationship with our ideal customer at this stage, learning what they like, what resonates, so that we can ultimately keep improving our content to be more beneficial for them. Like an example of this is after many years off, I started in YouTube and I had some really cringy like lifestyle content where I did like vlogs. And I've come back to it recently. And so I'm literally approaching it like a beginner all over again, where I'm like, I don't know what my audience will want nowadays. My audience shifted from men that like cars into now largely female entrepreneurs. What's going to relate to them? Do they want to see more vlogs behind the scenes? Do they want like more business content just like this? I'm figuring it out. And, I'm just kind of improving each week based on what resonates with people and the feedback that I get. In sales, you're not consistently tracking or managing your DMs. right? So how many people have fallen into the trap where you do a DM and you're like, I'm not using the tracker. Sorry, don't hate me. And like, it's okay, but why are we not using the tracker? So to graduate this, we just need to block time each day to manage your conversations. This is literally where that profit number that you wrote down comes from. Yet so many of us avoid it, not because we don't want money, because we don't want rejection. And sales is 97% rejection. Every single person on earth that has a truly successful company got there because they were willing to get no's 97% of the time. People have to know you exist to actually make an opinion about your product. And you're not going to be for everyone. So naturally, you have to get okay with people saying no to you. No, that's not for me right now. And you not making that mean anything about yourself. Product is, at this stage, you're starting to want to ignore doing sales. So you're like, well, I'm still really busy. I'm working on improving the product. This is classical avoidance, where we're doing all this all of this kind of trivial work because we're like busy. We're in it. We feel really good about doing it, but we're actually still avoiding the thing that's going to move the business forward, which at this stage is sales. And so we're overcomplicating it. At this stage, we're like, well, I've got 3 customers, but I think I could make another product, and I think I could do a tiered membership. And now I want to add on these calls and this, and I'm going to redo the whole product, right? Instead, we just want to launch a simple MVP, minimum viable product. Only ever add or improve if it helps more people get the result. So remember, your customers are with you because they want something. They don't want you to be adding endless amount of fluff to the product. Right? So you want to make sure anything you add, be it a call, be it a piece of content, be it a process or a system, it helps people get the result. In this stage, we're only optimizing to help people get the result. We can think about the experience later on, and that's kind of the stage that we're at now with Rise. We're like, we can help people get the result, but now we want to make it more fun. Now we want to make the journey like, why are we doing things like this? We want to make it more collaborative, right? We want to make it so that they have a good experience. First thing in a business, we got to make sure it functions right. We've got to help them get the result. We can add on all the fun later on. Finance, at this stage, you're undercharging and you're doing custom discounting out of scarcity. So someone's like, I'd love to join, but I only have $3. And you're like messaging in the community, should I invite someone in for $3, right? Should I set up a whole new checkout system because this person wants to join and I don't want to say no to them? We don't want to do this. Instead, we want to know the value, speak to the right person that has the funds, is ready to invest, price with confidence, and invite abundance in. There are 8 billion people on Earth. Money is flowing every single second of the day. Why are we focusing on the $3 that we're leaving behind instead of going to talk to the 8 billion people that want to pay you? There are so many people that actively want to solve their problem. You're not even speaking to them. You're focusing on creating a custom checkout for this person that only has $3 right now. And the other person, like that person's going to come around later on when it is right for them. So it's not to say don't speak to that person, but we don't need to go change our whole business model because of that person. Customer service, support is handled ad hoc, meaning kind of all over the place or ignored when you get busy or taken personally. So at this point, you've got customers coming in. All of a sudden, you've got your first complaint. Someone didn't like it and you want to quit your business, right? You're like, oh my God, I created this thing. I put all this time in and someone didn't like it. And you take it really personally. You stew over it for days and then you're just losing all of this energy because you've taken things personally, which is totally normal. Every single person has faced this. I totally get it, right? What we want to do instead is set expectations for response time. So again, we talked about setting up an autoresponder. This gives you the freedom that maybe every day on Friday, or every week on Friday, you're responding. Maybe it's every day and it takes 10 minutes to go through this inbox. Like you're still pretty small at this stage, so you're not going to be like overwhelmed with messages. Just put it on the calendar, set up an autoresponder, and set a day and time that this is handled. The other thing about taking it personally, we have to understand that when we're a massive company, we're going to get people that don't like our product. We want to invite this feedback. I love Apple. I admire Apple. Sometimes I'm like, stupid product's not working, right? Like we all have those experiences with the products that we use. So you don't want to take customer feedback personally. You do want to just log it kind of mentally and go, okay, someone said something about like for member up. I'm like, okay, someone said that this was challenging. Now we're like scaling a little bit bigger and I'm like, okay, X amount of people said this is challenging. Now that should actually influence a decision that we're making. But for the most part, if it's a one-off thing, I'm like, okay, cool. You know, that happens. It's okay. Can't please everyone. We've got to stay focused on helping people achieve the result. And in the process, not everyone's going to fall in love with you. And that is okay. That is the process of being known. Can be the juiciest peach in the world. Some people just don't like peaches. So do not take it personally. Your operations, you're still reacting at this stage. So level 2, we're still just reacting to things. Again, to graduate, just get disciplined with your time. Create a schedule for key tasks and actually start to honor it consistently. Because there's a difference between putting it on your calendar and then letting that time pass, and you had it on your calendar to do DMs, but then you Netflixed and chilled instead. The good thing about this business model, you can Netflix and chill and do DMs at the same time, right? It's a part of habit stacking. So at this stage, we're still just getting disciplined with actually executing what's on our calendar. We got some mindset shifts. At this stage, you're like, oh, it's easier to have a job, right? I've definitely felt this. I get it. You've got to know this stage is temporary, and you got to keep working toward the next stages. Remember that graphic of pushing the rock up the hill? You got to remind yourself of that and go, I am pushing the rock up the hill right now, but there is a top of the hill, and soon I'm going to be the one dancing around on Instagram saying how easy it is if I just actually stick with it. Shiny ball syndrome, right? This is where we're like, I wonder if I should have an ecom business. I've seen people with ecom businesses. Looks really fun. Oh my God, I would love to do photo shoots with models. Yeah, this would be great. And then you start over again. And all that progress that you've made, you've now started at zero. Now you have to go find an ecom program, invest money in that. Then you've got to go through all of the mental stages as well. So you're starting at zero. You have to learn everything again. And most people go through their whole life just like that. So recognize that every business has stages. Grow by leveling up, not starting over, right? If you ever feel tempted to quit, know that the solution is graduating to the next level, not from starting at ground zero again. This is a big one, letting your feelings dictate your actions. So particularly as women, we have these lovely things called hormones that will convince us that the world is on fire at times and we need to do X and Y. It's okay to feel your feelings, but they're not fact, and we have to show up consistently regardless. If we let our feelings run the show, life's going to be pretty scary, right? Because then we're just going to react to our environment. And so we have to show up and act consistently in line with our values, not our feelings. Overthinking and questioning everything. Who's done this? Right? Where you're like, should I send this DM back, or should I change my VSL, or how should I feel? Should the VSL be on a white background or black background? Maybe I'll change it, right? We're just spiraling. And you want to use data to guide your decisions instead of reacting emotionally to things, right? So if you have any data, use it. If you don't have data, try things, right? You don't need permission. And I think this comes from, working traditional jobs. Most of us are conditioned that way. You literally need to ask your manager to do things. Or if you are the manager, you need to ask your boss to do things. And so we're brought up in a world where we're not actually comfortable with our own decisions. In business, it's okay for you to test something, for it not to work, and for you to try again. In fact, that is encouraged. So instead of overthinking and questioning, make the decision quickly. Well, you know what? I don't know what the answer is. So instead of trying to avoid failure by trying to get it perfect, which is completely impossible when you don't know what you're doing just yet, I'm just going to allow myself to try. I'm going to gather data from that, and then I'm going to do better next time. And that is the process that you repeat over and over again. Anyone relate to any of these? Yeah? All right, we're getting through the levels. We're at level 3 now. So this is where you're starting to document. You're building your very first processes. So I'm a systems nerd. I absolutely love them. And the reason is because that is what creates freedom in my life. Is it that I love hanging out in Microsoft Excel? No. But I love that if I create good systems, now I can replicate myself. And then I don't have to be the one doing all the things. I can manage the people doing the things. So with content, you're still inconsistently posting. You've got no repurposing system. What the heck is a repurposing system? Well, if I created a post 6 months ago, chances are people have forgotten about it and I've forgotten about it. Maybe it did really well and I could just repost it instead of coming out with new things all the time. So a really simple one, every 90 days, people have forgotten about what you posted 90 days ago, unless it's like a life update, like I had a child, don't repost that, right? So make sure that you're kind of thinking like, how could I be a little bit more efficient? How could I be a little bit smarter with how I'm doing content? You don't need to create a brand new thing every single day. So build a content system. Start batching, scheduling, and repurposing to stay consistent with less effort. Batching, this looks different for every different type of person. Some people like to do it, on a day of their cycle where they feel like really empowered. Some people are like, I'll fit it in whenever I don't have the kids. Other people, like we just did a big content day because we had the house yesterday. And I was like, all right, perfect. I'm going to use this as the time to just batch and get ahead because I'm moving house right now. And so I knew that I wouldn't really have a whole lot of time over the next few weeks. So I'm like, 20 pieces of content, all done, ready to go. So think about what this looks like for you. And there's not going to be a standard thing for anyone, right? But we just have to make sure there's time on the calendar. Is it that you need to actually set that time aside? For me, I know that like I'm in and out of operations all the time, every day. If I don't have a day of the week dedicated to content, then it's really hard for me to get my head in that headspace. So think about, what time do you need to set aside for yourself just to prioritize content? Because your content is your marketing. If people don't know you exist, they can't pay you their money. So it's easy as a business owner to get stuck in this like, no, I just want to be a business owner. I don't want to be a content, an influencer person. But it's literally free marketing. So nowadays, every business owner is a content creator for this exact reason. In sales, you're still doing all sales yourself, and you're inconsistent with your follow-ups. And the money is in the follow-ups. You want to stay in touch with people. So to graduate, you want to get your sales process working. Then you want to document your scripts and SOPs so someone else can take over. So we're working with you inside of Rise to figure out and test what are the scripts that's going to relate to your customer. We're testing it. We're figuring it out. Once we have those metrics in your spreadsheet showing that, okay, this works now, this is converting enough, you're going to document them so that then all of a sudden now you don't have a job anymore, because in the next part, we're going to hire someone to take it over. So if you resent having conversations with people and you don't want to have this on your plate forever, I did all the DMs for Rise myself in the beginning because I needed to figure out what worked. And I'll do that in any business. I'll do everything myself to figure out what works so that I can document it. So then I can bring someone else on. I know the personality they need to have. I know their job back to front. So then I can better manage that person. So whenever you're doing everything yourself, like this is your learning time so that you can then go and manage someone to do this later on. And when they ask you a question, you're not going to be like, I don't know, figure it out. And this is what so many people do when they hire is they expect someone to come in and just do the job that you've never trained them how to do. It's impossible. So we want to get your sales process working, get those metrics to the place where they're within the range that we suggest. Great, now we can document it, have someone come and take over. Product, custom delivery versus systemized delivery. So what does this mean? It means that we're working with people like one-on-one and we're giving them like different unique things because we want to be liked at this stage. We're like, I'm going to go above and beyond and I'm going to do it all like completely custom for people and I'm going to reach out to everyone with a different system. Maybe you've fallen into this trap, maybe you haven't. But if you have, you need to think of it like a conveyor belt. Your product is a conveyor belt, right? And the way I think of Rise is I see it as a big system. So you guys know we have the dashboard, right? And if I see like many people getting stuck at a certain point, I'm like, okay, system needs work. It's not that I need to go and like reactively like talk to every single person. Sure, we're obviously going to support that. But the first thing I'm thinking of is what broke in the system? Like what needs to change and shift? And that's when you'll see us do updates, right? I'm like, oh, I noticed recently, okay, someone had a VSL that they did that came out pretty different to the script that we had actually suggested. So I'm like, how can I make this system better? Now we have AI. Great. I'm going to come up with a custom prompt. So this is going to reduce the room for error in people creating VSLs. So can you see how like thinking about it like a system versus like just helping people one-on-one within what's meant to be a scalable program is the best way to think about it. Optimize it based on what will improve results the most in order of priority. I can tell you right now we have a running document of about 1,001 things that we want to add to Rise. But I have to always optimize based on what's going to help someone the most at any given time because I can't do it all at once, right? No one can. So I always have to go, okay, what's going to have the biggest impact? If I can only film one lesson this week, what's going to be the biggest one? And that's going to get you out of overwhelm because if you just look at that massive list, you're going to have no clue what to start on and you're going to feel like you need to do it all at once, which you don't. It's, time is going to go on. We can absolutely improve over time. Finance, no margin planning and unpredictable cash flow. What the heck is margin planning, right? Fancy word for just saying not thinking ahead on your product pricing and who you're going to hire to actually create that profit that you're looking for. I'll give you an example. With Rise, you guys know we have phenomenal coaches that come in and support us so that you guys can get answers as quickly as humanly possible. Now, what they get paid is based on how many students are in the program each month. And by doing it this way, we know that when we make a sale for, let's just use round numbers here, when we make a sale for $1,000, if we have allocated $100 to the coaching part, then my margin, it scales, right? And it's stable. So if I get 1,000 students, I know what I'm paying for coaching. If I get 100 students, I know what I'm paying for coaching. Instead of where a lot of people go wrong with hiring and they're like, I need to hire a coach. They want $5,000 a month, but I'm only making 3, right? So this was like a big turning point for me when I realized that, oh, like hiring people is not just paying them a salary out of thin air. Hiring people and your first hires can actually be based on commission, which is a portion of the product. And especially you want your first hires to be ones that are producing more revenue in the business. And we're going to talk about who to hire first in a second. To graduate this level, you want to start tracking your expenses. It can be a simple spreadsheet. And calculate margins in preparation to hire and set financial targets. So basically, you might just have, the only cost you might have is software. That could be the only thing. Maybe it's a Gmail account for support. But even then, getting in the habit of just looking at your expenses, looking what your margin's at. Okay, my margin's at 97%. I could spend 7% of margin getting someone to come in and help me. So thinking in terms of the price of the product being the actual thing that you're working with versus someone's salary, right? It's not, can I afford to hire someone for $5,000 a month? It's look at the cost of the product. How could we bake this into the cost of the product? Does that make sense? Customer service, we're still all handling it yourself at this stage. So we're on level 3. We're still doing it ourselves. And the good news is this is not much. This is like 3 emails a week at this stage. Like it's very chill. Each response you get, create a how-to SOP in preparation for this role. So every response you get, let's say someone asks, what happens if my card details change? You answer the email and then you write how to deal with a customer who asks when their card details change. And then you just put that response in there. That way, every single thing you're doing, you're like prepping for someone to come in and take over. That way, when you do hire them, you've got a whole library of resources for them and you don't need to spend all this one-on-one time actually getting them up to speed. And operations, you've got no SOP library, right? So we have this massive document in both MemberUp and in Rise where it's broken out into all of these departments. And so if I hire someone that's maybe a coach, they just come in and they watch all of the how-tos. If I hire someone in customer service, they come in, they watch all of the how-tos. So you want to start building that, and it can start so simple. It's literally just creating a Loom video or a Google Doc for each thing. So just want to start really simple, set up a SOP library in Google Sheets with each department and Looms on how to. So again, just write, maybe in the operations, it might be how to set up events on the events calendar, right? That would probably be in product. But every little thing that you do, just put it into one of these departments, make a little Loom on it. The really cool thing is Loom, if you pay for it, I think it's a couple dollars a month. AI has this feature in it now where if you create the Loom, there's a button that you can click and go generate SOP. So it will it's great. I use it all the time. Saves so much time. So you then have a video of the process that you're doing so someone can watch it, and you have a documented process and it literally takes you 30 seconds. All right. Mindset shifts. Building systems takes so much time. I don't like being in spreadsheets. I hate systems, right? Moving into building systems is how I reclaim my time and create freedom. Okay, so I'm no good at finance or ops. You can become good at anything, and the way is by doing it. I wasn't good at running a software company. In fact, I sucked at it in the beginning. I've just done it now, and now I'm like, I can do it, right? That's the process of doing anything, but we get so in our heads about it. Or, this is a big one. I'm going to outsource system creation. I'm a creative. I'm just going to outsource all of this. In doing this, you're basically saying, I'm going to outsource someone to come and build my business for me. The person that will do that is an entrepreneur, and the person that will do that is going to want to take a lot of your profit to do this. I have come into businesses and done this for people, and I'm like, well, you're hiring an entrepreneur, so I'm going to need 50% of your product to actually come in and do this. So you do not want to outsource system creation. You want to just use the time that you're wearing every hat yourself to build out the systems. It literally takes a Loom video and clicking one button, and then you've got a library. And then you can hire people for attitude, people that don't have the skills just yet because they don't need the skills because you've got a whole library showing them how to do it. You can't hire or manage well if you don't understand how your business actually runs. How on earth do you expect to manage someone or be respected if you don't even know what their role is, right? This is a huge one. So this time that you're spending in your business is so valuable because you're going to become a badass leader if you know how everything works. And then just overcomplicating things, right? The mark of a good system is that it's simple, effective, and repeatable. So often when we hear operations and systems, we think complexity and fancy words. No, a system just needs to be really, really simple. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. It should be really, really simple and effective and repeatable. All right. Leader. So we're in level 4 here. Content at this stage.
the constraint is thinking that, because now we're hiring a small team and we're managing people in operations, but the constraint that we want to avoid in content is thinking that this is the first thing to outsource. So thinking, well, I'm going to hire a social media manager because they're going to manage all of my content. Instead, we want to outsource the repeatable so that you can double down on what only you can do. Hiring a social media manager is tricky, not impossible, but think about it. You are the thought leader of your business. You must have thoughts to lead with. Yet so many people actually want to outsource this when in fact, like, your personality, your presence, your energy is magnetic. That's what people want. So instead, let's free up your time. Let's get rid of all the busy work so that you now have more time and space to actually connect with your audience. A social media manager, in my opinion, is rarely a good hire. This is avoidance, in my opinion, versus mastery. So often we want to avoid the things that we don't feel good at, or like sales, when we avoid doing the DMs, we just want to avoid rejection. So we're trying to avoid the feelings that come with doing this thing instead of actually stepping into, screw that. I'm going to master this thing. I'm going to become one of the best in the world at this thing, because creators aren't going anywhere. Knowing how to create content that connects with people is one of the most valuable skills nowadays that you can have. In sales, you're still involved in every DM, potentially, or you're becoming too involved. So what you want to do, this is going to be your very, very first hire. Bring on someone that's called an appointment setter. These are people, there's a whole industry around this. They're people that spend time in your DMs to manage conversations. You're going to train them using your documented DM scripts. So this is someone that's going to come into your DMs. Don't worry, you don't have to give them your Instagram password. You can actually set them up in Facebook. There's like whole infrastructure around people coming into your inbox to actually do this, because Facebook knows your DMs are a huge source of business. So you're going to bring on this person, and we're going to teach you how to hire them, and you're just going to have them go through all of your SOPs. Once they have, you're going to say, what questions do you have? And they're going to go, none, because your SOPs were badass, because Amy told me that they needed to be very thorough. And then they're going to start taking over. Now, the big thing is when someone takes over, it doesn't mean that you don't care about this anymore and that you completely look the other way. You have to manage this person still. So as they start taking over, first few weeks, you're going to be pretty close in there with them. You're going to review things. Oh, we got a hand coming up. In just a second, I'll answer. But you're going to review what they're doing to ultimately build that trust so that eventually then you can hands off knowing that they got everything. Because they're going to have questions that they don't know the answers to. You're going to need to give that to them. And you're going to have a culture in your company where if anything is ever not known, that person then goes and creates the SOP because they've seen you model that to them. So whenever there's like a question in any of my businesses that someone doesn't know the answer to, we answer it and then I'm like, added it to the systems library. And that's how you want everyone to operate, because now everyone's creating the systems for the business. So the first hire in this business is an appointment setter, and they're going to come in and take a massive part of your business off your plate. Go for it.
Do you recommend belly shop?
No. Okay, so I'll deviate on this a little bit. I just did a podcast about this, and I also spoke at a mastermind about this, and it is something that I have a lot of conviction on because we did a massive test. So we actually spent, myself and Ross, so he has a very same type of business model, but he teaches one-on-one coaching. Between us, we spent $230,000 on ads in January. And we ran a test using ManyChat versus an actual person in the DMs, and ManyChat got destroyed. A real human, actually, better quality leads, higher show-up rate, people appreciate it. In a world where everyone's using AI, your competitive edge is to zig when they zag. Think about it as a customer. Do you prefer something that's like, hi, Amy, here's your resource? No, you treat that like it's a robot. Think about how you speak to ChatGPT. I am terrible. I'm like, do it better, right? And I see that in my DMs because it is actually me or a real human. People just like send a keyword and they expect this like quick response. If they can get what they're looking for in 2 seconds without a real conversation, what do you think their commitment level is to actually making an action?
Freebies, though. Would you use them as freebies?
Yes, freebies, totally fine. But then you got to follow on with it real human. So there's 2 types of automation. There's software and there's people, right? So a system can be managed by software, could be ManyChat, could be people. And that's why we tested it. We were like, it'd be great if ManyChat could do as good of a job as a human or better. And our theory was speed to lead, quicker responses. We're going to get more people through the system. But the results and the data just told us otherwise. And so I feel very strongly that a real person is what's best. And in a world where more and more people are switching to this, you are going to stand out because you're real. Product. Your offer is solid, but you don't really have a feedback loop just yet, right? So you've created it, but you're not really like listening to improve. Implement a simple system to gather feedback, track outcomes, and improve client success. This could be as simple as just putting like an email in an email sequence that asks for feedback. It could be as simple as just reaching out to your top 5 people and asking them what they thought and what they would improve to get better results, right? It doesn't have to be complex. Finance, your revenue is growing. Hiring cost is not baked into the margin of the product like I talked about though, right? So maybe you bring on an appointment setter and you're like, I'm going to pay you $4,000 a month. And you haven't thought about that in relation to, the price of the product like we talked about. If you've got a $1,000 product, it might be better to say, you know what? I'm actually going to pay you $200 per closed lead. So when you win, they win. And you're not paying then out of your own pocket for results that they haven't yet produced. You're also aligning incentives. And what that means is that people then have the same incentive as you as the business owner, and they start showing up in that way. If I just pay someone for their time, do they really care about the outcome? If they have a great attitude, yes, but most people no. They're just going through the motions. So you want to create incentive-based comp structures that align with outcomes, know your per sale costs, and budget team pay accordingly. And this is level 4, right? So if this is like, oh my God, like you're going through the stages and you don't have to know how to do all this if you're at level 1, but you do just have to graduate that level and then keep stepping into the next one. Customer service. So at this point, your setter can also be the person doing customer service. So whether it's a VA or a setter, they're just fancy words for people who are going to go into your DMs and answer your customer service emails. But at this stage, you've completely, because you're so happy to have someone in the business helping you, you've completely looked the other way. So there's no accountability on the kind of job that they're doing at this stage. You're just like, thank God you're here. Instead, what we want to do is create SOPs and templates and have a feedback system for quality and escalation. So what does this mean? So let's say there's a customer service email that is not good, right? And it's posing a little bit of a risk to the company in some way. I'm going to post on Reddit about how terrible of a person you are, whatever that might be, right? If you haven't gotten there yet, welcome to business. You will get there. There's going to be someone that you cannot please for some reason, and there's going to be some kind of like reputational risk that comes up at some point, which really takes the business owner just getting in there and going, what's the best thing to do in this situation? So we need a system for escalating. So that's as simple as creating, and again, in our SOP library, how to deal with a customer who seems, very upset. And it might be like, escalate all things to Amy in Slack, right? Simple as that. So we want to do that. We also want to make sure that we have a feedback system for quality. That could be as simple as setting an hour aside on your calendar or even 10, 20 minutes each week. Go into your own DMs if someone's managing them. Take a look at the job they're doing. Are there any ways that they could improve this? And take the time to train them, right? So if someone's not doing a good job, first thing I ask myself, well, did I do a good job at training them on how to do a good job? Because so many people will blame that person, but they have no indication of what the right way looks like. So you want to make sure you go into your DMs. If you see anything that's not right, use that as a coachable moment, right? And then create a new SOP. Because anything that's wrong with the job that they're doing, unless it's an attitude problem, it's your system problem. So use that to improve your system. Standard operating procedure. Fancy way of just saying like how to do stuff. Yep. And operations, your team is not doing it as well as you would, right? If anyone's hired anyone, this is like the inevitable phase that everyone goes through. You're like, my team suck, right? Hiring is not an escape though. It's structured delegation with ownership and accountability. So again, it can be so tempting to fall into that mindset of like, well, I hired this person. It's their job now. They should be doing it. But they have to, it's like you're coaching them. You really are coaching them on how to get the outcome that they want in the role and that you want in the role. And so you have to, instead of time now, if I spent 10 hours a week doing the task, now I spend 1 hour a week managing the person that does the task and training them. So that's how you start to get your time back. That making sense? Cool. All right, we got some mindset shifts and then we're on to the last level and we'll be on to some lunch. All right. So here we think they should just know how to do it, right? How many people, and this was my biggest weakness in the beginning, I'm like, God, I would know how to do it. Why don't they know how to do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Delegation requires structure, training, and follow-up, not just handing something off. So if I gave Guinness the service dog something to do.
Maybe like more important than just one-time training. Sometimes more than once.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, this will sound condescending, but it's not meant to be in any way. It's like training a child, right? We have to reinforce good behavior and bad behavior. So when they win and they do a great job, you want to support that and emphasize that. That was phenomenal. I loved how we have values in our company at MemberUp. One of them is urgency. We operate with speed. So whenever anyone does something really fast, I must not just punish them when they don't operate in line with it. I must also say, God, I loved how you worked on Friday night to do that. That was amazing. It's like a child, right? I loved how polite you were with the server the other day. Good job, right? So we must reward and equally say, hey, this didn't go as well. Why is that? And get really curious about that so that you can coach them on it. I forget what I was saying about Guinness, but people are not just going to know how to do things. We have to show them how. Also, we don't want to fall into the trap of resenting them because of it, right? How many toxic workplaces have you been in where it's like, oh, they should just know how to do this thing. I resent them. No, it's your fault. As the business owner, the best and the worst thing is everything is your fault, unless it's an attitude problem. And even then it's your fault because you hired someone with a bad attitude. So we get to take full responsibility for this because our job as a leader is to help them become successful in their role. And you want to think of yourself as a coach when you're a leader. How do I help someone achieve their outcome through my business? So whenever I bring anyone on, I'm like, where do you want to be at? What's your ideal day look like? What's your ideal income? And they're like, I want to make X amount and I want to really learn and grow in these ways. It's then my job to help them get there, and they will stay with me as long as they are getting closer to their goals whilst I'm hitting my goals. And we want to coach with kind candor. Now, there's a book that I read that stopped me being a people pleaser, and it is called, I believe, Radical Candor. It is a huge one if you are soft and you don't know how to give direct but kind feedback. So I was the person that was like, didn't want to upset anyone and was like, oh, I don't want them not to like me. And so I would let things slide and let things slide. The kindest thing for you to actually do is to tell them what happened, get really curious about it. Was it a system? How can I help them? And then coach them on it. The worst thing you can do is let it slide, because then 3 months down the line, you're going to fire them and they're going to be blindsided and they're going to be like, you didn't even talk to me about this, dude. So the best thing you can ever do for anyone, it completely shifted my mindset, is be kind, but operate with candor, because that's what's going to allow transparency and for both people to win. I'll just hire the first person I find because I just want this role filled and I don't want to deal with hiring. Instead, hire on attitude first, because you already got great systems. You can train them on the hard skills, and appointment setting and doing support are not like highly technical roles. They're not doing brain surgery, right? So that gives us the freedom to hire on attitude. How does this someone show up? How does this person show up? Do I like them? Do they bring good energy to the team? Because you can just train them on the systems. And then demanding versus demonstrating, right? So there are some types of leaders who are like, I want you to do this, but then they don't do it themselves, right? I want you to operate with urgency, but then they don't show up that way themselves. People don't do what you say. They do what you do. My team will rise to the standard. I consistently model to them actions over words. So if you want people to show up a certain way, you better show up that way. All right, level 5. So this is when you're out of the weeds, you're just leading with vision. You see all these people just doing like photo shoots all day on social media, right? And they're like, I'm the CEO of a company. One of the pitfalls at this stage is content isn't systemized and it's always deprioritized. So it's really easy at this stage to fall so much into like the vision and the strategy and the behind the scenes of the business that you're like, oh, I'm not an influencer anymore. I'm not doing content. I'm too good for that. Instead, we want to build a simple content system where you always own the ideas. Again, I don't like the thought that we're going to try and outsource our mind to a social media manager when your mind is what's magnetic. They want to work with you because of this. So you own the ideas, but you can outsource some of the execution. So for me now, I'm like, Hunter will attest to this. I'm like, I want it to be my mind, like my idea. And sometimes he's tried writing certain things for me. He's like, I want to help out. I see that you're busy. Here's some things. And I'm like, it doesn't really relate. It doesn't really click because it's his mind, which is his genius, but it didn't come from me. And so instead, I'm like, what would be more helpful is if we can actually hire a small editing team and you can manage them so that I can own the ideas and I can film them and shoot them, but everything after that point is then delivered to me. So we built a little content system around it. So it made my ability to do content, like I sat in bed, when we first got to this house, it took me 2 hours. I planned the whole month of content. Super easy. And then we shot it yesterday. Now I'm done. I'll just get them like delivered to me and I can post them. So I own the ideas, but I built a team to outsource some of the execution. Sales and marketing, you're still in the weeds managing DMs, maybe. So you're managing them overly. So treat each DM you're pulled into as a trainable moment so you can fully step back. So Sky in the Rise community, she hired a VA, and this was like, we were just talking about this issue in hers, where she's like, I hired someone, but I'm still in every single DM. So instead of just treating this as each individual instance, it's a trainable moment. So have a conversation with the setter, send them a quick loom. Hey, when we get any responses like this is how we answer. Now they will not come back with that same thing. So that's what pulls you out of that. Product is innovation is reactive, not strategic, right? So it might be that you get a little bored with what you're doing. And this is pretty common. We get sick of our own stuff because we've been doing it for years, forgetting that our customers are new to this. It's a brand new world to them. So we're like, I want to change my branding, right? Just reactively because it would be fun versus strategic. Instead, we want to use data and feedback to lead product evolution, refine the process. Do not get distracted with new offers. This is the stage at which you're like, well, everything's going pretty smoothly. I think I want to create an entirely new business and start down at the bottom, even if it's the same business model, but an entirely new offer. You're starting at the bottom of the hill again, right? Instead of actually using this process to get the profit and the lifestyle that you actually want. In finance, we're focused on income, not wealth building. So at this stage, you got your profit number, but you're spending it all every single month on useless shit to get people to like you, right? So that's where the other part of what I teach comes in, which is investing. We should all be investing even what we can at any given moment. However, especially when you start making more income, you want to make sure that you don't have lifestyle creep as well, because then you're working forever. You're stuck in this forever. We want to be building our investments so that work becomes optional, not mandatory. So this is where you want to start thinking about profit allocation, tax planning, and long-term investments. Fancy way of saying, okay, if I get paid 20 grand a month, how much of that am I going to invest? How much of that am I setting aside for taxes? And what am I doing with the rest of it? In customer service, you might still be problem solving or micromanaging support issues. How you get out of this is once you've got a team member doing this and you've given them clear training, then you want to install a culture of ownership. So if we consistently micromanage, then people will go, Amy will always have the answer. I should go to her for the answer. Instead, something that I like to say when someone comes to me and they're like, Amy, this happens. I go, okay, great. What do you plan to do about it? And the reason is because it gives them the opportunity to start solving the problem themselves and take ownership, but I still get that transparency around it. So if there's anything off, I can be like, that's great, but maybe we'll tweak it like this. But they still felt like they owned it, and then they can keep doing that. Operations, you might still be involved in every decision. And this is only when you get, this is level 5. You want to train a team to make decisions aligned with company values and metrics. Fancy way of saying, how do we roll in this company? It's kind of like family values, right? How do we operate in this house? Are we honest? Are we fast? Like, how do you operate? So you want to choose like 3, 4, 5 max, and not just have them as fancy little things that sit on a wall, but it's how you hire, it's how you fire, it's how you operate. So again, if someone's operating with urgency and member up, I reward that. Like, this is amazing. If I'm doing an interview, I look for that. How quickly do they respond to my emails? On the contrary, if they're not operating in line with that, then it's starting to be an indication that maybe they just don't fit in that environment, right? So those are the 5 levels. We got one more mindset shift to make it this stage. This one is when you're A-type and you're like, I need to stay involved in everything to keep the quality high, right? Is this you?
Good coverage.
Yep. Me too. Don't worry. Instead, I hire leaders I trust. I set standards and metrics that they can own. I don't want to let go of control because we're control freaks. Real control comes from controlling the system, not the involvement in the system. You got to let go if you want to scale. I shouldn't have to do content. I'm a serious business owner. Instead, recognizing I'm in a content-driven business, and instead, building systems that free up my time to master content is the better thing to do. And then I'm not good at hiring or managing people. Knows anyone, like no one is when they first start out, right? Learning to hire and manage a lean team, a very small team, is what will create leverage and results. And the good news is plenty have walked the path before us. I had to learn so much of this in relation to how to manage like a development team. And there are books of people far more successful than me that I could just learn from. So you can learn any skill. You just have to believe that you can and not kind of cut off your opportunity to by going, I'm not good at X, right? Because that just blocks any opportunity to learn. So all that to say, those are the 5 stages. I know that was a lot. What does life look like at the end for person A, person B, person C? When you've done all of these things, you've graduated from my 5 stages. Person A, they got someone handling DMs and support. They maybe do 1 meeting a week with them. They work 1 to 3 hours a day on content and delivery, and they just maintain their goal income. This is my friend Elise. She has got a phenomenal lifestyle, and she's so dedicated to keeping it this way. Now she's shifting into a season where she's like, you know what? I might actually be like ready to push the gas again. So this will shift and change. But in her previous version of herself, she was very much person A. This is totally fine. You don't have to go build a $1 billion company to be worthy, right? It's about optimizing for what you want. Person B has someone handling DMs and support. They work 1 to 3 hours a day on content and delivery. They use the rest of the weekday to learn the things that are going to help them scale. They learn ads, they do more DMs, and they optimize conversion rate. And they have work-life balance. So if I'm only working here, 1 to 3 hours, then the rest of the workday, I'm just thinking of things that I can do to advance the business. But then at 5, I clock off, I go chill with my family and go do whatever I want. And you can set the schedule out to be whatever. It doesn't have to be 5, right? Excuse me. Person C is the same as person B, but they are psychotic. They are constantly thinking about more, better, new, which I'm going to explain in a second, to unblock the business from growth. They will prioritize growth over leisure most occasions, and they think in systems. This is the season I'm in. I was at one point in this season. Right now I'm in this season. It's okay. It's going to shift and change. And I mean, ask Hunter, in the shower, in the car, I'm just always thinking of this stuff. And that's because I want to as well. That's my choice, right? And we can all choose what works best for us. So that's kind of what life looks like after you've gone through the steps. But this is the one thing that I wanted to teach you before I kind of wrap up this session. Because I find a lot of the questions in the community are, how do I make decisions at the heart of it? Like, how do I decide what to do? And instead of giving you answers, I would rather give you a framework for how to think through. So the first thing to do if you want to grow your business is more. So the question to ask, can we do more of what's already working? And you want to use this when something is already profitable or effective. So if your content is working, if your DMs are working, your outreach workings is working, instead of creating a brand new marketing funnel, go, how do we do more of this? And if the answer is, well, I don't have enough time, how do we get more time? We leverage someone else's time. So we're just constantly thinking of like, okay, if this is working, how do we do more of what's working because it's proven? That's the first way to grow a business. Ironically, it's the last thing people think to do. They get something working, they're like, I want to do all these new things. So first do more, then ask, can we make what's working even better? So let's say your DMs are converting at, I'll just use a round number, 10%. You're already doing more of it because you've got appointments that are helping you. So they're doing a lot of the volume. But now you're going, I wonder if we could push this to 15%, to 20%. Like, how do we do it better? Maybe you're redoing your VSL, getting that conversion rate up, right? When the system works, but it can be optimized to improve delivery or conversions. Only then do we do new stuff. So we want to ask ourselves, once we've done more to the most that we can possibly do, and we've unblocked the business from doing more of what's working, then we do it better. Only then do we do new stuff, right? And generally, you don't want to do new stuff until you're over $1 million a year. Like, you do not need to do new stuff to get to $1 million. One simple offer, one simple marketing channel to $1 million. Then you can ask yourself, do we actually need to build something new, or are we just bored and we need a hobby? And you want to use this decision-making only after maxing out more and better, because it adds complexity. This is the thing that I find so many online business owners struggle with. They do more and new, and there's so much going on, and then they build this monster of a business that's so complex, they have no systems for it, they're burnt out, and then they're like, online businesses, it creates burnout. Like, no, you created burnout with your decisions and with your lack of systems. So I wanted to give you this framework so that you can just see this is how you grow a business. Do more of what's already working, then do it better, and then do new stuff only once you get there. And remember this, like, new feels exciting. I get it. Like, sometimes I have these ideas and I'm like, it'd be so fun to do this event. It'd be so fun to do these things. Like, I get it, right? But more and better are usually more profitable. And your business exists to create that profit level that you want and the lifestyle that you want. The more new stuff you add, you're actually getting further away most of the time from the lifestyle that you want, because now you got more to manage, more team to hire. Like, more is not always the way that you want to go about it. And more new stuff is certainly not the way that you want to go about it.